Hi everyone, welcome to Shelf Starters. We're just going to have a chat about what we're reading, what we have been reading. So
Yeah,
let's get started. Rosie, you've been reading a lot. A
I
lot.
have.
Still, by the
So
time.
yeah, I bought some of them here. But I also did read a lot on Kindle as well, and I've also given some of them away. So this isn't even all of them. But maybe we could start with some of the Australian ones because of Aussie April. So we can talk about what we've been reading in Australian fiction.
Absolutely, let's do that. So you've been reading some Australian ones, a couple that I sent you.
Yeah, well, only one of the ones that you sent me. Sorry, I haven't read the Trent Dalton yet, but I'm very excited to do that. Yes. This was probably the highlight of the month so far for me. I absolutely adored Honeybee.
Hi, editing Rosie here. Just wanted to add some more information about Honeybee that I do think is important to add at this point. So it is not an own voices story. This is written by a cis man who hasn't had that personal experience of what it is like to be trans. And since reading this book, I have since read reviews that point out some of the issues with how it was dealt, particularly some of the stereotypes that Sylvie does lean into, and there was some important criticism on the avoidance of pronouns in the story. So that's something that I did not pick up on my first reading, and so I didn't feel like it changed my enjoyment of the novel. But I want to clarify that, of course, as not being trans ourselves, our voices are absolutely not the only perspective that should be considered when critiquing this novel. So please do make sure to check out other reviews as well, particularly of the trans community. I'll link this review down below that I thought really does explain this perspective very well, and I think is helpful. So just wanted to add that in as a clarification. But yeah, thanks. Back to the video.
Which I feel really bad about because I know that for a lot of viewers, it's not easily accessible. It is really hard to find actually, but it's so worth it if you do want to get it shipped in from Australia, because it is just the most moving, beautiful, it is brilliantly written book. I could not put it down. I loved it, and I was very moved by it. Oh, I guess the next one that was the was really good was the performance by Claire Thomas, which I really do recommend you read, and I think you will like it on audio because I've heard that it's a full cast in audio, and I think that it would lend itself well to a good listen. So it is set in a theatre. All the characters are watching a performance of a Beckett play. And it's one of those, Beckett plays where not a lot happens, and it kind of encourages the audience to step back and think about their own lives. Yeah. But while they're watching it, these bushfires are raging outside in other parts. Oh. And so it has that environmental side of it, which is affecting some of the characters. But then you also, you're learning more about their relationships, where they are in their lives. The characters are all at very different points. And you see eventually how they come together. And the structure is really, really clever in this as well. It's sort of structured like a play in a sense, like there's an intermission part where it's done very differently. I don't want to spoil too much.
Nominated for, we have an Australian Book Industry Award, which comes up.
Yeah, I think it probably was. It's definitely nominated for something.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what it is.
Yeah, that's all. I loved it. I gave 5 stars. Adored it. So those were the 2 highlights for Australian fiction for me. Other ones I read, probably maybe this is the next best, was Mullumbimby by Melissa Lukashenko. Yep. And I wish that I had read this first, because I did read Too Much Lip first by her, and I was a little bit disappointed by this one.
Lukashenko, is that who it's by?
Yeah, Lukashenko. Yeah. I liked what it was trying to do, but I felt like not a lot happened in this one until towards the end. You really got 2/3 of the way in before anything really grips you. And at that point, it was yeah, it was good at that point, but why do we have to take so long to get there? So I didn't love it, but I much preferred Mullumbimby, which is interesting because I don't think there's much of a plot in this either. But for some reason, I was more gripped by the characters, and I just felt like I could get on board with their journey, and it was quite spiritual. So these are both, Melissa Lukashenko is an Indigenous Australian author, and they both do deal with that spirituality underpinning her culture and the connection to the land, native title, these kind of big issues, and that's really interesting. But I think this one dealt with it in a way that was more seamless and kind of fit better with the characters.
Yeah.
So this is actually set in Byron Bay, Mum. It's set in the Byron Bay hinterland. So I liked that as a setting. There's a lot more about horses and stuff in here, which is really like quite fun for someone who hasn't read like a horse book since, you know, childhood.
Yeah.
But it was pretty good. Having that kind of focus, much better than in this one where it felt like the focus was on motorbikes.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, yeah, like the kind of motif. Yeah. So I do like Melissa Lukashenko. I think I will try something more from her in the future, but Mullen Bimby I thought was a lot better, which is her older one. The more recent one I'm not really so keen on. And then the other Australian one that I did read on Kindle was The Wandering by Intan Paramedita. I hope I'm saying that right. And that was really interesting. That has been nominated for the Stella Prize, I think.
Yes.
Yep. And it's a choose your own adventure story. So, you know, those ones where you're like, she says, if you want to do this, go to this page. So I only read, you know, the one version that I had chosen. So it's not like I've read all of I didn't read all the different ways you could have gone or anything like that. And it ends up being quite a short book if you do it that way. Like I think it's like 400 pages as like a novel, but then when you actually just read your own little bit, it's quite short. So I got through it very, very quickly. It was fun. It was really clever. I thought it was very well written. It is literally an adventure story. So it's someone following this like devil lover through travels, and she has these red shoes that she wears. It's got a lot of fairy tale links throughout it, which I thought was really cool. So this one, average. So Farewell My Orange by Iwaki Kai. This is translated. So it was written in Japanese, but it is an Australian book. So the author went to Australia to study English and has written this book in Australia, and then it has been translated by an Australian translator from the Japanese into English. And the problem that it was good, it says the story of refugees from Nigeria learning English in Australia and like trying to integrate with Australian society. And the problem with it was the language was quite simplistic because they were learning English. So it was.
That's like I'm reading the Dictionary of Lost Words by.
Oh yeah, I really want to read that by Pip Williams.
Yes, and that's historical fiction, but the perspective is a little girl, and the story is a really interesting one, a really good premise, and I feel like I should love it, but I have a problem with it in terms of the perspective being a little girl. It's because she does a different thing. She tries to write with that authenticity of a young, naive voice, but with sophisticated ideas. And it's just not plausible. It's not authentic, and it's frustrating. But I want to enjoy it, and I feel like
that's annoying. I really want to read that one, but this really just made it just I think it lost impact, that's all, because it would have been a really moving story, you know, like of course it's a really difficult story to tell, like refugees coming to Australia trying to settle in, but the language it held it back. It did do a clever thing with the names, but it also was kind of predictable in a sense, so I don't know, it was just okay for me. Not something I will really remember, which is a shame because it was actually quite hard to get hold of. Oh well. What else are you reading? Any other Australian ones?
I'm reading The Dictionary of Lost Words, which is a writer, Pip Williams, she was born in London actually, but then came to Sydney she grew up in Sydney and now she lives in Adelaide. And look, it is a really interesting premise. So it's this one, a really interesting premise. It's set in Oxford. So it's a little girl, Esme, who is, they have a shack basically in their yard, which they call a scriptorium. It's set in the 1800s, late 1800s. And so they're gathering words for the first Oxford dictionary, but they
nice.
lose words. So words drop on the floor, and Esme, the little girl, gathers the words that drop on the floor. And one of the first words she gathers, or the important word, is bondmaid. And she decides to construct a dictionary with all the lost words. So it's kind of this interesting feminist idea. So it's, the feminist perspective on this sort of story. It was written, it's set prior to the Great War and suffrage movement, when the suffrage movement was going on. So it is really interesting. All those things gathered together should make it a marvelous read. But for me, I'm held back by the fact that Esme doesn't ring true to me. And I can't cope with the story being from the perspective of a little girl. It actually irritates me. It holds the story back. I'd much rather an adult just told the story somehow.
Well, very similar book, but is not told from the perspective of a child, is The Liar's Dictionary by Ellie, or I don't know how to say it, if it's Ellie or Eli or something like that. Williams as well, I think. Yeah. Is that right? I'll put all the links down below for everything that we've talked about. Yeah. But that one is it's the opposite sort of thing. So it is also about making a dictionary, but it's about identifying which words are fake words that have been inserted into the dictionary by the dictionary makers. Kind of like when this happens with maps as well. And I knew this with maps, that like a cartographer will, in order to it's kind of like a copyright stamp, in order to know if someone's copying their map, they'll put in like a fake place, like a little tiny little detail or something that isn't in any other map, so that
so someone,
you can tell
if
someone has reproduced it in that way. So kind of like that, but with words, where like a new definition has been added in, but doesn't have any other link throughout the history of language. So there's this girl that we're following who works at this company that is trying to put together this massive dictionary and digitize it, because it's all in cards and things like that in this massive building. And her job is to try to find which words seem like they're not actually real words, and like actually do the research and make sure that she knows which ones need to be taken out. And it's really interesting because you get the perspective of the person who was putting in the fake words. Yes. We don't know who that is, but you get like this unknown person, and then the girl trying to like identify them and take them out again. And it was really, really well done. I loved that book, and it came out around the same time as the Pip Williams one.
Yeah, right. Okay, interesting.
But kind of a different take on it. Yeah.
Well, it sounds.
What else are you reading?
The other thing I'm reading is actually an audio book. So I'm reading it on the treadmill or while running. And it's been great weather for running in Sydney. Actually gorgeous, because it's getting now to we're getting a little bit crispy. Like cooler.
It's probably very similar to London running right now. Yeah,
we are. Yeah, at that point where we cross over, and beautiful clear blue skies, and lovely time to go running. So anyway, I need a substantial book to do that. So I've been reading a book called Sorrow and Bliss by Meg Mason. And she was born in New Zealand and relocated to Sydney. Yeah, so this is about depression, it's about marriage, it's about a woman choosing not to have children. And so this choice not to be a mother is a really big theme, and really kind of goes hand in hand with her depression. And I am quite enjoying it. The male characters are awful. They're limited, and they're
right.
And this is definitely a problem. It's a little simplistic in that regard. And I was talking about it with some people last night, and they said they found it whiny and complaining. I don't find it that at all. But I am really interested in that idea of someone open, trying to explain that they don't want to have children, and in fact having to explain. So
I've actually
interesting.
I think there was another book which I still haven't read that is on my Kindle, is Olive by
yes.
Emma again. I think it follows the same concept of like
Yeah.
choosing not to have kids and
Choosing not to
explain.
have
Yeah,
children. Yeah, and then, but
Yeah.
if you're a man and you make that choice,
you don't have to
no one
explain.
asks you questions about it.
Yeah.
If you're a woman, it's like, oh, is there a physical reason you cannot have children? Oh, you poor thing.
Yeah.
And it's this terrible conflict for her to, like she says at the very beginning, before actually embarking on marriage, I don't want children.
They want to do this, yeah.
But it causes,
Is it because it's quite a dark topic and everything?
and she
is it okay to run to? Like, is it, because I find when I'm running, I quite like a more upbeat kind of thing. Yeah.
I think the key to a novel to listen to while running is that the character's voice needs to be one with which you can engage, and it needs to be really, really an authentic, real voice that you can really hear.
Yeah.
If I've got that, I can run to whatever the story is. The plot's fine. And I do.
And the narrator needs to be good. I mean, the actual
Yes, because sometimes you can have a book that you read yourself and you really enjoy, but the narration is really disappointing. I had that with an Australian book, Clay, Bridge of Clay.
Oh, Marcus Zuzak.
Yeah,
he's not a good reader.
I can't cope with his reading, and I love his writing so much. And I love him I've been to functions. I've met him, and he's lovely in every regard. And his writing is so good. But when he reads his own work, it is deeply disappointing, and I cannot engage with it. I have to stop. I did stop with Bridge of Clay because it just ruined the entire book for me. So it's really the narrator has a lot
makes
to
a difference.
Well, like reading Michelle Obama's autobiography.
That was great.
Audio.
She is a good narrator.
A supreme reader. She's a storyteller, a natural, and it just sounds beautiful. And you could listen to that running very easily. But and I did also listen to Honeybee. Honeybee was an audio.
Oh, was that well narrated?
Yeah. Beautifully narrated. Perfect. Just great. Really, really, really good. So
I listened to 2 audiobooks recently. So the first one was The Break, which I finally finished, by Marianne Key.
Well, that's
the Irish.
Yeah,
which is always good to listen to, I find anyway. So I liked that in audible form. I didn't like it as much as Grown Ups, which I really loved, and that's why I had gone back and read another one by her, because I hadn't read any before. I did like it. Like, it had that humor mixed with genuine relationship issues and things that you do feel for the characters. But I didn't love them as much. I think I so loved the characters in Grown Ups, but this one was okay. There were parts that just annoyed me sometimes. It's about a woman, a married couple, and the husband decides he needs a break from the relationship, but to go traveling. He just decides to go off by himself and travel. Yeah. And everything will be fine. He'll just come back in 6 months and we'll all be okay, and we'll all go back. And he's like, no, I promise I will still want to come back to you in 6 months. Just give me 6 months as like a gap year. And so it's her processing that, being like, what the hell? And her kids, they've got a lot of kids and friends and things, not understanding it, and she doesn't really understand the other relationships that happen, obviously, as a result. So it was good. It just wasn't as brilliant as Grown Ups. So
I read that and I enjoyed it too. Actually, I think I did that as an audio as well, and I like the Irish accent for audio very much.
It's good. And then the other audiobook, which was not good, and I don't think you'd like, was okay, but I don't think you'd like it at all, is Animals by Emma Jane Unsworth. And I had read Adults only a couple of months ago, maybe, by her, which is her new one, and I did like that, though now I can't remember anything about it, but I did like that at the time. But Animals drove me insane, and I don't really even know why. I gave it a 3-star rating, as it was okay. But now thinking about it, I'm not really sure why it even got that high, because most of the time I was extremely irritated. It was about basically about young people messing up their lives in London like a lot of stories are, like that whole trend of like people who drink too much and do too many drugs, and like you're trying to have a life in London, and then the main character is engaged, and it's about her, like her fiance not really approving of her crazy party life, and she has this best friend who's like awful. I just couldn't stand, who kind of encourages her in the like party thing that her fiance clearly doesn't like, and it's just all a mess, and she just continually ruins her own life, and I just didn't have any sympathy for her at all. I found her extremely irritating. All of them were, even the husband, who's supposed to be like the moral, like I think because he was being so like morally superior,
yes,
he was also irritating.
Very.
So they were all annoying. The only reason I think that I thought it was okay was it was genuinely funny at times. Like there were turns of phrase and stuff in the actual writing that was quite good.
Good laugh.
So it did keep me going, but like I hated the people so much. And normally that's not such an issue, but I think when they're annoying, it's kind of different to like when you don't. When they're annoying, it's not like you just don't agree with their behavior and stuff, and like, you know, because you can love an evil character.
Yes.
But when it's just that they're just irritating, not so much. So yeah, that wasn't great. Other things I've been reading, I did read quite a bit of Shakespeare. 3.
Good one.
So I'm trying to.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, I'm trying to read the Pelican Classics, Pelican editions. I don't think they're called Pelican Classics, they're just the Pelicans, which are really nice. They've got beautiful illustrations on them. So the blue ones are the comedies, then you get the tragedies are black, and then there's the histories are like this purpley color, but I haven't read them yet. So I read Twelfth Night, which was great. I knew the story already, but I hadn't actually read it. So loved it. That was fine. Then I had this weird experience where I read 2 that I did not know anything about going in, and just read the text on its own. Didn't read the introduction or anything, never heard the story, didn't know anything about it, and went right in. And mixed reactions, really. So Titus Andronicus messed me up. I was basically like just in shock at how violent it was.
It's horrible violence.
So violent, but in kind of a cool way. Like I sort of thought I hated it at the time, and then but I kind of liked the shock value. I actually kind of liked it. But it was brutal, like horrible imagery of like chopping body parts off, lots of rape, hideous things happening to characters all over the place, but gripping.
Yeah.
So I actually did quite enjoy this one. And I thought it is really unusual to not know anything about a Shakespeare play going in.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a great experience for me. Just experience it for the first time. And then Troilus and Cressida. Have you read this?
No.
Or seen it?
No.
Because I just found it incredibly confusing.
Yeah. No, I have not. I've neither read nor seen it.
It's so I think later on
it's not a one that's very performed in Australia, that's for sure.
I think it's because it's a bit structurally a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
Is my opinion. Sorry, Shakespeare. Let me judge Shakespeare's structure. But I like it's supposed to be this great you think of it as being Troilus and Cressida, it's going to be a romance like Romeo and Juliet or something like that. But that's hardly in it at all. It's really it's about Troy and the battles between Greece and Troy when the Trojan War. Yeah. And so all of these like historical figures, like there's Aeneas, there's Achilles, Ajax, or what's the Hector, Helen, all of them are in here. And that's like, I like that stuff, that's interesting. But it just felt like you're following them, you're following the different battles, the different like complex stuff going on there. And then there's also this relationship, which felt to me like a side story, not like the main event, even though it's the title. And then the relationship's kind of crap too, because then the whole point of it, which I think this is a like famous story that is we're going to do in the Norton Anthology, there's a Chaucer version.
Yes. Yeah.
Which I'm interested to see how that differs because
to compare. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be good to that's why I got this one when I was looking at the different Shakespeares I could get. But their relationship's not that great because Cressida ends up cheating on him like just ditches him straight away. Like it just it just didn't feel like a very genuine love, which was kind of sad. So I don't know, it just felt like a bit of a mess to me. Still glad I read it, still had, you know, the beautiful language and everything, so you can't really say it was a bad read. It was just felt a little bit more all over the place. So this was also sadly a little disappointing. So we came across this in the bookshop in Australia, and I got so excited because I had no idea that that Joel Dicker had another book out, and I had adored the Harry Bear Affair.
Yes, you did.
I just remember. I don't remember what it was about at all now, but I remember absolutely loving that, being really gripped. And so I thought, oh, another chunky one by him. He hasn't done anything since then. This will be great, and it just
disappointing.
Was too long, to be honest. I think that was really actually the main problem. It's a, you know, kind of a mystery thriller crimey book, which I normally love, but I don't know, it just went dragged.
Editing, definitely.
Yeah, some editing was needed. It was set around like a theatre, so there was a like theatre festival, and a murder happened several years back at that time on the opening night of this festival, and then several years later we're going to do it again, the festival again, and then the reporter is Stephanie Mailer, who goes missing. She was investigating the first disappearance, and then she also goes missing. So it's all this cyclical thing. We bring back the past, all of relating to the theatre and stuff, which should be something I would love, but it just
did not work.
And then this one was fun, light. So this is a really cute series that is written by Bella Ellis, which is the Bronte murder mysteries. So she is writing from the characters of the Bronte siblings, and as though they're little detectives, and they're solving mysteries around the parsonage, which is really fun, very light. Like, I feel like the mysteries are never really that like exciting, thrilling, or anything like that. They're more the cozy mystery kind of style. They're fun, but meh. What I did like about this one, so this is the second one she's done, was I actually like how she's done Bramwell, and it's kind of like there's always all these kind of digs at him. Like, you know, you could get yourself together and actually like do something yourself. Like, you don't have to just drink all the time. You could actually publish something like we're all doing. And so that the sisters kind of do have these like jibes at him and things, which is quite fun.
I mean, he fair enough. He really detracted from the quality of their life.
Yeah, and he could be such a like annoying figure in a book, but they kind of make it fun in this. It's like he's just he tries, but he's just a little bit hopeless. And the sisters like have a good relationship.
Wasn't he? Both, I think.
Yeah. And he did write, but he just never did. He was so drunk, he just never really got to. Yeah.
You know, when you go there, they've still got his chair in the pub, haven't they?
Which is really cool. Yeah. We should do a whole thing about the Brontes one day.
I'd like to go back there.
We should go back. That would be fun.
But I was thinking how there's this nice kind of crossover with what I have been reading between Australia and New Zealand. And then I thought, New Zealand. We should start reading some New Zealand writers. I
actually just bought one the other day, which is The Absolute Book.
Okay. Who's that one?
I can't remember the author, but I will link it below.
I'm thinking Lloyd Jones. I like Lloyd Jones. He wrote Mr. Pip. That was a great book. Have you read that?
Yeah. Yes, I loved it. I actually found it in a charity shop the other day as well, and nearly bought it again, but
it's really good. And he also wrote one called Hand Me Down World, which is about
also good.
Who's from Africa, who's searching for her son, trying to find her son, and it's all these different perspectives. He's a really clever writer, I think, Lloyd Jones, and I think we should look at some New Zealand ones.
Maybe let us know if you know of any like readathons or anything for New Zealand authors as well, because we know about Aussie April, but I don't know if there's anything the same for Kiwi fiction, and I would like to participate if we could, because there is some good stuff coming out there. One that you will want to know about, Because of You, written by Dawn French. I did read it.
Oh, what was
you know, the Women's Prize long list. Mum's not so thrilled about that one. Wasn't that interested. I liked it, but I wouldn't really see it as a strong contender for the Women's Prize. I not really sure. Like, yeah, obviously the judges have their own thing, but I'm not really sure why. It was there over some of the other books I read last year that I think would have been better suited on the long list. I did think it was well written, and it wasn't funny at all. It was definitely a deep read. It's about
its babies aren't mixed up, isn't it, at birth in the hospital?
Not mixed up. So yeah, these two women go in to labor at the same time in the same hospital. One, I think it's fair enough, not really so much of a spoiler to say that one woman's child dies in labor.
Right.
Early on. So there is one of them has a baby, the other one has a horrible tragedy, and then it's what happens to them after that. And there's a decision that's made that really affects everyone then several years down the line, which is what you get. So you get full timeline. And it was really good. I did actually really quite enjoy it, but I just didn't like. I think it was quite, despite being quite a heavy topic, it was quite an easy, light read. And I didn't really, I don't think it's a strong contender compared to the other books I've read on the long list. Yeah, so far. So no, I do think it's worth a read. I've just got two here, and then there's some Kindle ones. So firstly, The Last Kingdom, which I have mentioned in one of the Not an Anthology videos, that because this is set in the Anglo-Saxon period. It's a historical fiction series, which is following this guy called Uhtred, who is he's heir to a lord thing. What do you call him?
A thing.
No, he's like he is heir to an earldom, I think. So he's going to be a lord.
Oh, okay.
But when he's a young boy, the Vikings come and they kill his father and his older brother. So he ends up being the one who's going to inherit the land and be the lord of their little district. But he gets kidnapped by the Vikings. Okay. And so then he becomes sort of with them. And it's about his like tension between feeling really attached, because he's a young boy at the point that he's kidnapped, and he actually becomes really close to his kidnapper, who raises him like a son. So they have this like father-son relationship. And so he kind of feels like he belongs with this new group that is like the enemy, but also has this part of him that is like, I am the lord of this land, I need to take it back. So yeah, it's about that tension, and it's violent but fun. Enjoying that one. And then this one was just a really, really quick read, like a cozy mystery, hilariously set in like a quarantine. So it's set in 1764 in Boston, when smallpox epidemic was happening, and it's about people being quarantined in a house because they're going to get the essentially the vaccine, but like early days of the vaccine where they're getting like inoculated. Yeah, but it's actually like the doctors creating a wound in their arm and giving them a bit of the virus. Yes. And then monitoring them in quarantine for this period. Anyway, while they're locked into this house, a murder happens. So it's like a closed door murder mystery set in a epidemic. So that was pretty cool. It was fun, quick read. Yeah. Then the other things I've been reading recently, aside from the stuff we're doing for the anthology, which I'll leave for a different discussion when we get to them. I did like Saint X by Alexis Skatekin. Definitely pronounced that wrong, but yeah, we'll link it down below as always. That's a really interesting one where a family goes on a holiday to like an island called Saint X. Yeah. And the older daughter dies. So she has this like mysterious death, and it's told from the perspective of the young daughter, the younger sister, who really like idolized her sister and everything. And yeah, there's this horrible death during their like island holiday, and it's about how it affects the younger sister throughout life and her trying to like find out what happened which I think kind of it positions you to think it's going to then be this like murder mystery kind of thing, but it's not. It's very much more about coming like grief and coming to terms with loss, and who she has become since the event. So I feel like it was a lot more about like family relationships and that kind of search for identity and things, a little bit deeper than what you kind of go in thinking it's going to be.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's just been marketed wrong or if I have just read that wrong. But it was not the kind of like thriller that I thought it was going to be, but I really did enjoy it. And yeah, I would recommend that one. And I read Girl in the Walls, which had been one that I had pre-ordered because I loved the idea of it, by AJ News. Some of these authors, I have no idea how to pronounce names, which is about a girl literally in the walls of a house. So, and yeah, it feels quite supernatural and strange, which is why I was drawn to it. But it's not quite that, and I don't want to spoil it too much, but there is a girl living in the walls of a house, and you try to work out like why she's there.
Yeah.
And it's about her connecting with the family members as well in the house, and she has to like hide away and not be seen by them, but obviously that's going to happen at some point. So I did enjoy that one. That was really fun.
A lot of reading.
Yeah, it's a lot. And then currently reading Dante.
Oh, are you?
Yeah. So yeah, have I not even told you about that? So one of our booktube friends,
Yes.
whose channel I'll link below, is hosting a Dante Readathon. So she is really well versed in classics, but especially in Dante, has read it a million times. And she's hosting a readathon where we're reading one of the sections a month. So we're starting with Inferno in April, and then going on to Purgatorio and then Paradiso. So that's been really fun, challenging for sure. This is one where I think it's kind of similar to our Beowulf situation, where you think it's going to be really daunting.
Yes.
But it is definitely harder to read than Beowulf. So the actual like words on the page, because it is translated, of course, I'm not reading the Italian, are readable, and that's fine. But what you really need to go along with this is the notes, because it's so much symbolism and references and things like that you just aren't actually, if you just read the words, you're not going to understand what's actually there.
Yeah.
So that's the part that I think is being challenging for me, is trying to actually understand what I'm reading, rather than just reading it.
Work. Yeah.
So that's interesting, because I would certainly never read that without a readathon, because
no, you would never be.
It's too daunting to read on your own, I think. So and then on my list to read soon is definitely the Trent Dalton, new Trent Dalton.
Skies, all our shimmering skies. Yeah, you've got to read.
Oh, and I also started on Kindle as well, which you have read, and I want to know what you thought. Small Pleasures by the Women's Prize one, Small Pleasures by Claire Tomlin. It might be Claire.
Yes, of course. What am I thinking? Yes, I enjoyed that. I did.
You did like it?
Yes, I did like it. Yes.
Okay. Without spoiling the ending for me, did you like the ending?
No.
Can't remember. No,
I didn't like the ending.
Okay, because someone else that I watch on BookTube, Eric, will link his channel below, recently did a video on books that are ruined by their endings, and this one featured, and I was like, no, I really want to read this book.
I didn't love the ending at all.
Okay.
No.
That'll be interesting. So I'll let you know what I think.
I liked the book, but I did not love the ending. That's right.
Yeah, that was his thought as well.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I wonder if a few people are going to feel that way. Yeah. Well, we'll see what I think. I only just started today, so give me a bit of time.
Yeah, well, we compare notes on that one.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, I think that's everything that we're reading recently. Let us know in the comments down below what you're reading. If you've read any of the ones that we've talked about today, what you're reading at the moment, what you're planning to read soon. Would love to hear from you.
Anyone knows anything about some Kiwi works would be good.
Definitely let us know if you do know of any events, any readathons on BookTube that are featuring New Zealand authors, or if you just have any to recommend, would also be great. Because that does sound like a good area for us to branch out into.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Thanks everyone for watching, and see you again next time. Bye.